So we're joined from Beaumont, Texas, by my man, Nate Dean, founder of Unlimited Life Concepts. Incredible resume, just worked across so many different industries, and really now his heart for service led him to the financial field. We thank you so much for joining us. I've got a room of all young men in here with me today, and we're recording this for all of our friends in Madison County Schools, Madison Central, Ridgeland High School, Germantown High School, the Academic Options Center, and our YouTube channel. So thank you for joining us from South Texas today.
Well, thank you so much for having me. It's an honor to be able to just add some value to those students that you have there. So
That's awesome. Now, we obviously want to talk about all the financial things you deal with, some of the things they can plan for as far as planning for retirement and what they want to do. But just give us a little background because you're a minister by trade and now you're working in the financial sector.
I am started off in music ministry. I've actually done music ministry, student ministry, and even pastored a church for a few years as well. So have quite a bit of ministry background, and in the midst of working in smaller churches, I've always done something else to support my family. So my wife and I shared with you earlier, we'll be married 24 years this year. Yes, I do not look my age. I've gotten that my entire life. When you're in high school, I'm sure some of y'all can relate to this. When you're in high school, you always want to look older. You don't want to look like you're in junior high. So I got to deal with a little bit of that when I was growing up. But now it's actually really cool because when I tell people that I'm about to turn 45, they're like, "What? Like, what are you doing right?" Um, so that's pretty cool. So my wife and I, we have four kids, and as you said, we live here in Beaumont, Texas. And but it was in 2018, in the midst of ministry, that I got introduced to some financial concepts. It was actually late 2017, but 2018 is when we got so fired up and excited. And I say we, I'm the co-founder of Unlimited Life Concepts. I have a great business partner named Brandon Goswick, and we've just been so fortunate to be able to share this message and just connect with people all across the country. We were fortunate enough early in our business to grow on social media. And so we have hundreds of clients all across the country that we work with on helping them get clarity in order to produce freedom, and and really give them a better idea of what their purpose is.
Yeah, and it's so cool the things you talk about, and I don't want anybody to think I'm not expecting people to become a financial expert, and we're not expecting people to just think they're going to be making millions of dollars. But the way you're steward of your money and the way you're smart with it plays such an important role. Because look, everybody in here with me today is 16, 17 years old, and I realize, this. I think it's hard for them to believe that at one point we were the same age. And I realize that it's hard to think past certain areas of life, but I have lost count of the amount of students that have come back to me and said, "Man, I wish I would have listened when you talked about this." And
Yeah.
again, not expecting somebody to be in your shoes and be able to give advice on it, but knowing just little things. Because look, you mentioned about your growth on social media, and look, social media is not going anywhere, and it's here to stay. It has a lot of pros. It has a lot of cons. But one of the cons is a lot of these young people, they see these things on TikTok and they see these the quote lifestyle things people are posting, and they think that just you flip a magic switch and you just get the money and ball out like you're in a rap video,
Mhm.
and that may be a lot of fun, but it doesn't have any long term sustainability, and so many people wind up broke because when they got the money, they were not good stewards of it. And then you see the meme always cracks me up where it says they need to lower the retirement age to 35. Well, retirement has nothing to do with an age. It's all about money and
For
just
sure.
simple things like one thing I always say, and I say this all the time, and I'm far from an expert beyond, not even close to your ability, but I say even small things. If you don't put the maximum amount that somebody will match in a retirement plan, you're outside of your mind. That's money that you never had to work for. That's going to go into a retirement account.
Hmm. Well, and one of the things that's really important for people to understand is money is not complicated. It's all the noise that surrounds it is what makes it complicated. So we were actually speaking at a financial conference last week, and one of the speakers was using this as an example. He said, I was at an airport a couple years ago, and I went and to the magazine rack, and there were two different financial publications that said this is what you should do with your money this year. He said I read both of them, and they were telling people to do the exact opposite of one another. He's like, how do people wade through all of that? And that's one of the things we really help people deal with is just understanding the facts and removing the sales hype. So we get to deal with what's really going on and kind of peeling back the layers on the truth about money in general, because most people don't understand that there are only two things that you can do with your money. You can spend it or you can save it. That's it. So every time money is introduced into our life, the first decision we have to make is, are we going to spend it or are we going to save it? And anyone who has had success with money will tell you, you pay yourself first, you do not pay yourself last. So you make sure that um, you have some rules that you create for yourself that you live by, because when you are going to be playing a game, and we're all playing a game at some level, if you are going to go play this game and you get to create the rules for the game, wouldn't it make sense to create rules that are favorable in order for you to win? Well, absolutely. Well, that's what we get to do with our own personal economy, our own personal finances, is we get to create rules for ourselves that we know are going to give us the ability to win.
Yeah, and look, I'll be the first person to tell you, rural areas were left behind for decades. I was quoted in a magazine as saying that, rural communities, especially rural black communities across the South, never had access to things like this. It's not kids' fault that their grandparents were never told things. It's not their fault that their parents were never told things, or that apps were not available back in the 60s for people to use to help manage their money. But it's important to understand, we see the social media thing. People have these dreams of things they want to do. I have so many kids say, I want to open a business. I have kids say, I want to own a home. Well, there's a process to do that, and it can be done. But it's important to understand the steps that are going to need to be taken, because if all you ever have is a Cash App card and you're just balling out on that, you're not going to be able to show anything sustainable to say, hey, I need to get this mortgage loan to where I can have that home that I dream of.
Yeah, there's a crazy statistic out there that for working individuals in the United States, 66% of people do not have an advisor that they are actively working with. And it's not because there's a lack of us out there. It's because oftentimes pride kind of gets in the way. And pride is one of those things. I compare pride to an injection. Uh, Too much pride will kill you, but not enough is dangerous as well. And so
There you
you have
go.
to have a healthy amount of pride in your life, and make sure that you are not succumbing to what we would call arrival syndrome, where you feel like you have already learned all there is to know about whatever that subject is, and there's nothing else to learn. There's human conditions and behaviors that we fight against constantly, and that's one of the things that we teach about is do ne do not ever stop leaning in and learning, because you will never arrive. There is always something new to learn along the way. And that's why even 8 years as a business owner in this company, we are still actively evolving and growing in what we're doing and hiring new coaches that are done things that we haven't done yet, is because we recognize that the difference between the master and the student is the master never stops being a student. And
Wow.
when it comes to money, this is I would call it one of my famous quotes on Twitter is, if you chase money, it will run faster. But if you chase purpose, you will run faster.
Wow. Man. I'm gonna steal that, but I'll definitely give you the credit for it. Now, and obviously we talked about, you know, with kids being in high school, and we were that age before too. What are some things that you think are misunderstood that kids seem to overlook? because they're like, man, I'm just going to do this. I don't need any of this stuff. It's boring. And I'm like, look, I know it's not the most exciting topic in the world, but this is something that could change your life to have that light that you see on social media. So, what are some mistakes that you're seeing young people make that probably could have been avoided if they'd have started learning some things at a younger age?
Two things come to mind. One is most kids do not understand the value of a dollar. When a dollar shows up, when a dollar shows up and there was no work that was created behind it, it will leave as fast as it came in. Once you start actually working for your money and you understand the effort that it takes to create that, your mindset starts to shift a little bit. So that's one thing is a lot of kids just don't understand the value of a dollar to begin with. Um, the other thing is my mind just went blank. I had two different thoughts that were coming into my head at the same time. But I think that is a big one is not very many understand understand what it really takes to to create something over time. And this is something that we teach adults. And so as students, this is something that you can start focusing on now is there is a misunderstanding when it comes to creating wealth. And you mentioned the retirement age earlier. Retirement is not a number. Uh, what we like to talk about and teach is this idea of what is your financial freedom number. And what your financial freedom number means is that your assets are paying for your expenses in your life. And once you get to that point where your assets are paying for your expenses, you are technically financially free. Not retired, because retirement is a mindset more than anything else, because retirement means to take out a commission, to take out a service. Well, you are a walking economic engine nearly your entire life. And the moment that someone succumbs to that mindset of retirement, of being taken out of service, I've seen it so many times because down in Southeast Texas, we live in the plant world. There's a lot of different
Oh yeah.
oil refineries and all this other stuff going on. Most of the men that I know work in the plant at some place. What I see and have seen in the past is a guy will work and work and work, and then he hits that retirement age at the plant, and he goes home and he sits on his porch, and 6 months later, he's dead
Mm,
because we have to have purpose. We have to wake up with purpose every day. And that's so important because there's something physiological that happens in our bodies when we don't have a reason to get up in the morning.
man, that's
And
deep.
and so that's one of the things that we help people understand, because there's some people who we meet that absolutely love their job. And we're not trying to encourage them to run away from their job or get away from their job or anything like that. If you love what you do, there's no reason to escape from that. If you love what you do, there's no reason to escape from that. But if you can create more value, add more value to your personal economy, it may cause you to enjoy what you do even more.
Man,
Or we come across people who are working because that's just what they've always done and they don't really have purpose in what they're doing. And so we can help people get clarity on what it looks like to work and operate with purpose.
I just had somebody walk in. I'm sorry. Now you talk about purpose, and they're getting ready to hand me some questions, and we'll get to those. But you talk about purpose. So finances aside, we see so many kids that fall victim to the social media trap of I want to live like XYZ, or I'm gonna if I can't be a professional athlete, I don't have any purpose. There is so much opportunity for young people, especially young men, to have purpose. There's never been a better time to make something of your life than right now. And look, And I've said it, they'll say it for the third time. I understand it's hard. 10th, 11th grade, thinking past what I'm going to do Friday night. I want to do this. But there are times when at some point you've got to grow up. You've got to make tough decisions. You've got to make the decisions that aren't necessarily fun. And we need more people to be on the side of what can we do to better our community instead of falling into the trap to let's just see what we see on social media and not take care of families.
Yeah, that reminds me of my thought from earlier is social media is just the highlights. Whatever you see out there of people who are showing off this and that, 9 times out of 10, they probably don't even own that thing. It's a marketing ploy, is what it is. But we have to be careful of that in our own life and recognize that, like Facebook as an example. Like I don't post on social media every day, but the stuff that I might share with like friends and family or stuff like that, those are often like highlight moments. But they don't get to see the valleys along the way. I mean, some people do, like people who are like really close to me, obviously, but just an acquaintance or somebody out there who I just happen to be friends with on Facebook, they have no idea what's going on in my life unless I decide to actually put it out there and share it. And so the value of a dollar, as we talked about earlier, is really important. The other thing is understanding that social media is just the highlights and it's not real. It's not real life. Um, Even the people who walk around streaming and everything like that, it's not real life. It's a production. And you got to get out there and understand that where real value is created and where purpose shows up is when you start looking outwardly at how you can help someone else.
Wow.
There's a great quote or idea by a business philosopher named Jim Rohn, and he talks about what enlightened self-interest looks like, and it's understanding and ladies and gentlemen, it all goes back to the Bible. You know, Jesus said, if you want to be great, be the least of these, you know, figure out how to help other people. And so enlightened self-interest is recognizing that because of the way God set it all up, that when you look at helping others, you will be amazed at how you simultaneously help yourself.
Wow.
Zig Ziglar, his most famous quote is, "If you help enough people in life get what they want, you will have everything that you want."
That's awesome. Well, I do have some questions here. I'll get to as many of these as I can. These are really good. Now, this first one, I will preface, he was a little bit late walking in, so he didn't get to hear all the beginning. But this is still a really good question. This is Jarvis Lyles, getting ready to graduate, senior,
Awesome.
one of our football players here at Velma Jackson. And he asked, what issues or problems did you see that helped you come up with this idea to start this business?
So the one of my mentors says, when you understand the problem, you will know what to do.
Wow.
And there is a massive problem in the financial world that is very few people actually see. And ironically, he was the one that saw it really and started um, making people aware of what was really going on in our financial system. And I don't know how deep we want to get into this, but the biggest problem in our financial system is this concept called fractional reserve banking. And it's where our banking system is, in a sense, built on a house of cards. It's I hate to get too deep into this, but when you really start to understand what our banking system is, it kind of feels like a Ponzi scheme a little bit. Um, and so, but there are ways that we can sort of separate ourselves from the traditional systems that are out there, by understanding different alternative ways to manage our money and things like that. So it's like we're all we're all part of uh, the game piece on a chessboard. Let's put it that way. We're all a piece on the chessboard. We can't get off the chessboard, but some of us might be a little harder to manipulate or move than others.
That's awesome. I love this question. This is Derek Mitchell. He's in 11th grade, member of our drum line here at Velma Jackson. And he asked, you have some great quotes and you said a lot of great things. But how did you manage to get where you are today when you felt like giving up?
And that's such a great question. We're actually celebrating our 8-year anniversary this month, and where it has flown by, there have been some months that felt like years. So the world of being a business owner, it's kind of like social media a little bit. You know, from the outside looking in, it's like, oh, he owns his own business, and he gets to do all this stuff or whatever. And yeah, there's some really great moments, but there's some really tough moments at the same time. And where I found value personally was not being able to do it by myself. Talk about great quotes. There's a quote that says, if you want to go fast, you can go alone. But if you want to go far, go with a team, go with
Wow.
someone else. And so I have a great business partner that I mentioned earlier, Brandon, and he and I, our business relationship was born out of an accountability relationship we had with one another to begin with. Where we started learning about these financial concepts was reading books together, and we would talk about these different books we read, and then we started reading more financial books and things like that. And I'll give a plug for this book right here. This book right here is what changed everything for us. It's a book called Becoming Your Own Banker, written by a guy named Nelson Nash. Nelson Nash was the mentor that I was quoting earlier, where he talked about making people aware of the problem that was out there. And so, for me personally, in order to continue to persevere, I needed accountability and encouragement from someone else. So, being vulnerable with people that you have trusted relationships with is one of the most important things that you can do in order to get through this life.
That's awesome. I got one more. This is DeQuavian Black. He's in 10th grade, one of our football, basketball, and track athletes here at Velma Jackson. And he asked, what do you think has led to what has been the biggest contributor to your business's success?
Uh, I mean, I can say this because I'm not an educator. My hope in everything is found in Jesus Christ alone. Um, the foundation of our business is built around this philosophy that we're going to be great stewards of the information that we've been given and that we've learned, and then we're going to let God take care of the rest.
Wow.
That's not to say that we don't make plans and we don't create goals for ourselves and everything like that, but everything that we do as business partners behind the scenes, our conversation oftentimes is, man, thank you, Lord. Only God, you know,
That's awesome.
uh, because we recognized that as long as we keep Him first in our relationship, this is very much like a marriage. If we keep Him first in our relationship, then we're going to continue to grow in strength. And the moment that we take our eyes off of that, oftentimes in partnerships, the reason statistically why partnerships go bad is when someone gets greedy.
Yep.
And so one of the things that we said from the beginning, because we knew we were putting our friendship on the line, we've known each other over 30 years. So we knew that being business partners, we were putting our friendship on the line. But something that we've always held to is as long as we remain selfless, this will always work.
Awesome. Well, we're almost out of time, and we thank you so much for joining us. But a couple things before we go. First of all, unlimitedlifeconcepts.com is your
I have
website.
a
You put in some
podcast
great.
also if somebody wants to check that out.
Yeah, you got the podcast on. You're on YouTube. A lot of great content. Encourage everybody to listen. Just listen in the background. I mean, while you're working, you may get something that you can use. I always say we're at school. Heaven forbid you learn something. Uh, Now, the last thing before we go is, like I mentioned, I've got all young men in here with me today,
Mhm.
and we need more successful young men in our communities. And unfortunately, in my career, I've lost too many to incarceration. I've lost too many to homicide. I've lost a couple to suicide, and it really it's so disheartening because not only was there talent there, there was potential there. And we have kids that are so worried about people are going to call me lame. This stuff isn't important. But at the end of the day, we need leaders for our families. We need leaders for our economy. We need leaders for our community. So as the young men are starting making decisions for their life after high school, or wherever they're going to do. Why is it so important to understand that they're not only needed to be successful, they are needed to be financially literate and leaders in our community?
I think a lot of the problems that we can see today stem back to influence. And most people don't ask the question of why am I listening to this person that has nothing to do with my personal life, that has nothing to do with me personally, that doesn't know me. And when you really start to understand the agenda with media in general, that could be news, that could be music, whatever goes in your ears, there's an agenda behind it. And the agenda is not for you to win. It's for you to be subject to the system.
There you
And
go.
so you need to start asking yourself, why am I listening to this music? Why am I listening to this person? And there's an exercise called the 7 levels of why, where you ask why 7 times. So if you're listening to something, if you're participating in something, ask yourself why enough times until you get to the root of what is really going on.
Wow. Good stuff. And again, I'm gonna steal a couple of those quotes, but I'll definitely give you credit for them. But we thank you so much for taking some time for us, my man, Nate Dean, all the way from Beaumont, Texas, founder of Unlimited Life Concepts. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, brother. I enjoyed it.
I talk to you soon.
All right.